happened to me in the year, it must have been 1989, prehistoric times. 1989, I was offered a job in a kindergarten. And the headmistress called me and said, Amanda, I want my kids. She had groups of 3-year-olds, 3, 4, and 5-year-olds in that place, which was a private kindergarten, at a time when English was not taught even in primary schools, right? At the teacher training college, I had been trained to teach adolescents, to teach teenagers in secondary schools, but nothing was said about the teaching of English as a foreign language to primary school students or to these very young kids that I was going to have as my students. But of course, a job offer is never refused. I mean, I was not going to say no to a job. So of course I said, yes, sure, I will do it. And I planned my lessons for the first week, and I went and I met my young new students, and the first week went by and it was a complete failure. The second week went by and it was again another complete failure. The third week went by and another complete failure. And by failure, I mean nothing happened. There was no teaching whatsoever. There was no learning at all. And I just didn't know what to do with the little monsters, as I started to call them, because for me, they became monsters that did not allow me to show my full potential as a teacher. I just did not know what to do with them. And some of them jumped over me, others fell asleep, others played, most of them ignored me. And, you know, I didn't know what to do. I was completely lost. So I went to the headmistress and said, sorry, but I quit. I don't know what to do with these kids. And she said, no, don't worry, be patient, come back tomorrow and things will be better. I returned the following day and the same thing happened. Another week went by and there was no learning and no teaching possible. And I was very frustrated and I was sad and I felt that I knew nothing, you know. Mind you, at this time there was no computer, there was nothing to help you. I mean, there was not much bibliography. I had read about the learning of the native, the mother tongue in young kids. I had read about how kids learn a second language, but there was not much information about how kids acquired a foreign language. And so since the headmistress did not allow me to quit, I suggested going to the kindergarten every day to watch what the teachers did with the kids. And so that's what I did for the whole month. I went to the kindergarten every morning and I spent the whole morning watching the teachers work with the different groups of kids there. And I learned a lot. And I learned about the attention span, the very short attention span that these youngsters have, what Chabela was mentioning yesterday. I learned that they have to move a lot, that you have to dance, that you have to sing all the time, that you have to go out and play with them, what Sylvia mentioned yesterday as well. And I said, wow, I was doing everything wrong. And the problem was that I had not get to know the students first. I didn't know what to teach or even how to teach, because one thing I learned from those teachers was that they usually prepared a topic that they dealt with for the whole week. And so little by little, they introduced the kids to this topic. Suppose it was food. And by Friday, the kids put all that they had learned on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, they put all that into practice on a Friday. And that was beautiful. I said, wow, this is interesting. I can do this in English now, and I can get their attention. So that was one mistake that helped me learn to, you know, move in a different way, and not to be so ready to accept jobs without being prepared for what came. Okay, so objectives, clear objectives. As a teacher, you need to have them, and of course, if students are old enough, you need to let them know where you are going with them. Okay, another important thing is what I call classroom agreement. At the beginning of the school year, no matter the group of students I had, I usually had a kind of a virtual contract with them. That is to say, once I presented the objectives, once I told them the content, what we were going to do, and where we were heading to, I told them that I was going to work hard for them the whole year, and consequently, I would be expecting them to work hard for me. This collaboration between us was essential for any learning to take place, and I really needed this virtual agreement on the students' part, especially, for example, with adolescents, because in my professional life, I found the teaching to adolescents very irritating. You know how adolescents are. They are very hard to motivate. They are always interested in something else. English is never their interest, their main interest. Their mood is always changeable, and I felt that they took all my energy and they gave me very little in return. So when I made this agreement with them, I tried to sell my subject. I'm talking about the time I worked in secondary schools. And so I really worked hard for them to get convinced that what I was about to offer them was worth getting, right? So I really advertised my English lessons, and I told them that I had interesting things to offer them. And I think yesterday my colleagues mentioned this idea of surprising students, bringing the unexpected to the classroom. That usually worked with adolescents. And in that process, I tried to build up this kind of nice relationship with them, not a friend to friend relationship. I never became friends with students. I was always the teacher and the students were there, but I always made sure that they felt comfortable with me, that I felt comfortable with them, that we could talk about everything. But my relationship with them was friendly, but I was not a friend of them, right? And once I got their trust, and once they realized that I worked seriously for them, the teenagers become the most loyal people in the world. And they really work hard, and the results are amazing. Yes? So in the end, working with teenagers was a very nice experience, very tiring, exhausting, but worth doing, right? So agreeing how to work with them. And by this, I mean, for example, you know, the typical situation, teenagers coming to you when you enter the classroom and saying, teacher, we need some minutes to talk about the trip to Bariloche. We need to raise money and we need time to talk. And so I usually told them, okay, fine, I can give you some minutes off, but in return, you will have to give me something. And they would start complaining. And I always told them, nothing in life is free. So if I give you something, you have to give me something as well. And what they usually had to give me was extra work, of course. I mean, I was not going to waste time with the trip to Bariloche because I couldn't care less about their trip to Bariloche. But I was interested in them working for me. And of course, we have objectives as teachers to achieve or to get to. So the idea was, okay, you have some minutes off, but for tomorrow, you have extra homework, and everybody brings the homework ready, because if not, you never get extra minutes with me again. And in that way, we managed to work in a good way, and they knew that if they had a problem, I was there to listen to them. I was always ready to listen to them and help them. But at the same time, we had to work, okay? So classroom agreement worked for me, and I guess for you as well. Lesson planning. I'm an old-fashioned person, of course. That's why I retired last March. But believe it or not, during the 34, 35 years that I was a teacher in the formal educational system, I planned every single one of my lessons. And by planning, I mean I sat down at home and I wrote what I was going to do the following day in the classroom with my students. This was the part of the lesson that I enjoyed the most, because it was the time that I sat down at home and I thought of the students. I thought about their weaknesses, I thought about their strengths, and I decided the way I was going to present the new material, what kind of examples would be the best ones or the most appropriate for them to pick up the knowledge, which kind of activities would work best with this specific group of students. And so lesson planning for me was my way to show respect for my students. Before actually stepping into the classroom, I had already thought of them. I had already taken them into account, right? And that's why it really irritated me when students came up with excuses for not doing homework, because I usually told them, hey, I came here today ready to work for you because I have already been working for you. So you cannot tell me that you didn't do what you were expected to do. And little by little, they got to understand that it was also a way for them to show me respect if they did what I asked them to do for each lesson, yes? And yesterday, I think Sylvia talked about students producing intelligent questions, and I totally agree with that idea. I usually told my students, if you come the following lesson without questions, I will take it for granted that you understood everything that we dealt with the previous lesson, and that will allow me to move forward. If you come with questions, you will be showing your doubts, and in that way, I will be able to help you. If you don't ask, it's because you understood everything. Okay, so the students bringing questions every lesson was important, and I usually ask them to do that, yes, to show that they had read. Well, actually, to show that they had studied, because there was a difference between reading and studying. In the last years of my teaching, I had to stress that I wanted them to study for the following lesson, not just to read. But please do study and bring questions so that I can answer and clarify doubts. Praising. I think it's extremely important to praise students because it's a way to let them know that they are doing well, or at least that they are going in the right direction. What I usually did was to to make sure that all or everybody, all their classmates listened when I praised a student in particular, because praising, of course, allows for self-confidence to be built. And it also tells the student that you as a teacher are paying attention to their progress, even if the progress is slow. I think that this also has to do with the fact that we need to be able to respect each student's pace of learning. Not everybody learns in the same way and at the same time. So whenever a slow student gets to understand and is able to show that understanding in the classroom, I always took the time to praise, yes? So praising, and connected to this idea is opportunities. Allow for plenty of opportunities for your students to learn. And what I mean by this is to be ready to understand that you will need to do remedial teaching again and again and again. And that has never bothered me. As long as students showed or said that they did not, they had not understood something, well, let's go back to it. Let's go over the material and let's see if you can understand it better now. But of course, you need students to tell you that. And for students to be able to tell you that, they need to have studied, they need to have read, they need to have done their homework beforehand. So again, we go back to this idea of classroom agreement and the way we are supposed to work, right? If I give you another example of what happened in my classroom, I used to teach English Grammar 2, and I had adopted the systemic functional approach to the teaching of grammar, which to my second year students at the teacher education program sounded like advanced Chinese, right? And I knew that concepts at the beginning were very abstract and probably hard to understand. But I usually told students that if they accompanied me, if they allowed me to show them the way, by the beginning of the second term, they would be able to put things together, to make connections, and things would become clearer. And of course, by the end of the year, they would understand the whole thing, yes? But we needed to be patient, or students actually needed to be patient to see the end, yes? And sometimes the end looked very dark, and it was difficult. But it was just a matter of, you know, working and trying and having some remedial teaching and working again until things became clearer. And a way I found to deal with all this hard work was through humor. Humor is part of my life. And humor has always been present in my classrooms. So much so that I had a motto, for example, for English Grammar 2. And the motto for this was, grammar is fun. Imagine the faces of my second year students when I told them that grammar is fun. And I told them, and people, you start believing this because this is true. Grammar is fun. Of course, they looked at me as if I were nuts, but little by little, they got to understand that grammar is fun. And by the end of the year, if they were asked about grammar lessons, they would all say, oh, grammar is fun. So, you know, I managed to persuade them. But, you know, let me show you something. Let's see if you can I have it here. This is a present I got 2 years ago from a group of students. Can you read what it says? Grammar is fun, right? Yes, I have this picture on top of my bed. And the funny thing is that last year, my daughter's boyfriend came to visit and he wanted to read a book. And so I said, go to my bedroom. I have plenty of books there, pick up one. And so he came here, he saw that picture and he went out of the bedroom and said, wow, you are weird. Grammar is fun. Who thinks that? And I said, well, you haven't been my student, darling, sorry, but grammar is fun, and that is the message my students wanted me to keep from them. So humor was in my lessons. I tried to find the most hilarious examples I could, for example, so as to make the lessons bearable, you know, because remember that systemic functional grammar is complex, and we had to go through the year and get to the end without failing, okay? So the use of humor is important. And last but not least, I would like to mention the role of mistakes. I always told students to respect their own mistakes, because mistakes are a clear indicator of where the students are in their learning process. Yes, so they need to pay attention to their mistakes, and they need to become aware. But it is the teacher's responsibility to work on mistakes. What I usually did when I gave back papers, practical works, term exams, of course, I gave students time to have a look at their marks, because that's what they are most interested in, right? And while they were doing that, I started writing sentences on the board with the mistakes that they had made, without, of course, identifying the authors. So I wrote the sentences on the board, and then I told them, okay, now that you know whether you passed or not, I want you to focus on the sentences you have on the board, and I want you to play the role of teachers. Please correct those sentences, correct the mistakes, but get ready to explain why they are mistakes. What is wrong there? And what would be the right version of the sentences or the ideas expressed there? So working on the students' mistakes had a lot to do with learning, yes, because it forced them to focus on the mistake, to pay attention, so as never to make them again. That was the whole idea, yes. So mistakes are welcomed. Mistakes are always welcomed. It's not a sin to make mistakes. I really felt very uncomfortable when that is something that obviously you don't have clear yet. So you need to work on that. Well, basically, all these ideas have always helped me to provide students with a positive learning atmosphere, and to offer them a relaxed learning experience, yes? Relaxed, but working seriously, right? And always trying to achieve whatever we had to do that year in particular. Yes. Okay. Do you need to move? I'm not Chabela, Silvia, or Tere. Sorry about that, but I will keep on talking unless you stop me. And we have to make reference to the year 2020 because it brought things that were totally unexpected. We were not prepared for all this. And I do feel that it has had an impact on education, And as I told you at the beginning, I am very worried about how much learning really has taken place this year. And I am worried about how well equipped students are for the year 2021 or for their professional lives if they happen to graduate this year, right? And that's why I asked my colleagues to give their opinion on what happened this year. I hope that the videos work, so cross your fingers. I'm going to, first of all, show you the kind of questions I sent to them so as to get their views or perceptions on teaching in COVID times. Of course, these questions were just a sort of guide for them to express their opinions. So I asked them about their feelings about online lessons and the use of technology. I asked them about content. I mean, did they have to change content? Did they have to adapt, reduce? What did they do with content? How much information did they have as regards students' connectivity, as regards resources? And did they get any help or guidance from the authorities? I'm talking about the beginning of the year, yes, when we didn't know how long this was going to be. Did they perceive any change in students' performance as compared to previous years, of course? And what about final exams? At the beginning, they had said that there would be no evaluations, no examinations, but since this got to be so long, then they had to actually examine remotely. So how did it go? How did they feel about that? Has learning really taken place this year? And what would be their evaluation of the whole experience, right? And of course, thinking about next year, how would they compare or contrast the face-to-face teaching and learning as opposed to remote teaching and learning? Do they feel comfortable going back to the classrooms, or would they rather stay behind their computers or in front of their computers? And of course, any other comments they wanted to make. So if you allow me, I'm going to let my colleague and very good friend, Cristina Rivas, to tell you about her experience this year. You tell me if you can hear her. Wait, let me see.
Hello everyone, my name is Rivas. I'm a teacher of English, and I've been a teacher trainer ever since the year 1996.
Sorry, can you hear her? Is it okay?
Yes, Amanda, we can hear it. We can hear it well.
Right. Very well, thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, let's go. So she's Cristina Rivas. So as not to go back, she teaches at Almirante Guillermo Brown, which is a public institute, the same as San Fernando, okay? So here she goes.
And now it's the year 2020, and everybody says that history is being made this year. But sometimes making history is a bit painful. And it's a test on our ability to adapt and go on. And this is basically what I had to do this year. Back in April, when we were told that we had to teach remotely, my fellow co-workers and myself, we felt a bit overwhelmed by it. But then we realized, and I personally realized, that if teaching is what you love doing, it's what you will find a way. You will always find a way to do it and to get to your students and to guarantee that there is teaching and that there is learning. So the moment came for us to, for me in my case, to ask, okay, this is what I want to do. This is my aim. I want to teach and I want my students to learn. Now the question, the $1 million question was how? Okay, whenever I asked how to teach remotely, all the answers I got had to do with tools. That is, several platforms, online classrooms, you name it. There are a lot. The point is that there was scant information, practically nothing about the methodology, the teaching per se, not what to use to teach, but how to teach, how to distance teach. Well, I couldn't find an answer, so I said, okay, let's go on, let's go on and let's do whatever can be done. The challenge was not easy for me. It's easy for the students. So I knew, knowing that it would be so difficult for both parts, I decided to work with an educational platform, which is quite simple. That is called Moodle. And why that? Because it is simple, the students get used to it quite quickly because it's quite similar to Facebook in many respects. And I started planning lessons at first because I could not work with video conferences. So I started planning lessons as if I were in front of the students. What the final result were PDF documents, PowerPoint, or all those web pages in which you can produce presentations similar to PowerPoint, like Genially, Bisme. What was my idea was to translate into those documents and what I would do in a normal classroom. Did it work? It did. It did. It did. How? Well, I don't know. It's a mystery, but miracles do happen. Why did I with PDF documents or with PowerPoint presentations, Prezi, Genially, whatever? Well, basically because they are cell phone friendly. You know that some smartphones do not have access to Word documents, for example, or Excel documents, which we don't use much. Okay, did it work? It did. The point is, the greatest problem was a change in the frame of mind. In knowing that we are not having face-to-face lessons, and we have to adapt to this, I had to change my frame of mind and my students too. Could we do it? Yes, we did. Yes, we did. Eventually, I moved to video conferences too. Once I had the chance to access Google Meet and to use it for quite some time and to be able to record the lessons. And that was possible because Google Meet was granted by the Ministry of Education in Santa Fe. So thanks God I could do that. Did the learning take place? That was great questions. Yes, it did. In a different way, but not a different kind of learning. The greatest problem we couldn't definitely solve was the students, our students, future teachers, to be present in schools this year. I am not in charge of the final teaching practice, but I am in charge of the previous teaching practice that we call rehearsal practice. And this year, for that teaching practice, we did not have access to schools, which we did not complain about because we knew that schools were having and are still having a difficult time too. Besides, it's not easy to access lessons in which minors are included. It's quite controversial as regards in legal terms. So our students have to simulate lessons this year, but I think that they learn. What is it that they learn? They learn how to plan a lesson to be taught remotely. So I say, well, not in-person lessons, but at least remotely. Remote lessons is something that they could do, and they could, both in the workshop for secondary school and in the workshop for pre-primary and primary school. So I think that the aims were somehow reached, and we met certain expectations also. As regards evaluations, I'm still thinking about it, okay? Because other than whether the students pass or not, I'm still wondering if I am fair enough when evaluating our students, either in a written component or in an oral component. But I have to admit that there is one thing I love about oral components in exams. Now we can record them and we can send them to the students. In the past, if it had been an in-person exam, the oral exam would be just out. It's just gone, it's just passed. But now there is a record of the exam, and it's great how together with the students, we can analyze their performance. So basically, if you ask me, round up, what was this year like, or what has been this year like for me? It has been a difficult year, too much work, I have to admit. But on the plus side, there is this wonderful experience of meeting a challenge. Okay, so that you don't feel stagnated, as if you were not advancing in anything. It was a year of so much learning for me too. And as I always say, you have to look at on the bright side of things. And this was my bright side in particular. Well, that is all. And I wish you all the luck in the world for you in the future. That is so difficult to define now. What is in store for us in the future, we don't know. But whatever comes your way, I wish you the best.
Okay, so I hope you could follow Christina's message. I think she said some very interesting things. I have some comments to make, but if you allow me, I will wait until we listen to the other teacher. And I invited, remember, 2 students as well, because I'm very interested in their voices, yes, and in listening to the kind of experience they themselves had this year. So shall we go to the second teacher, if you are not too tired, and so that then we can round up the whole thing. This is Soledad Guzman, and she works at Cervera Institute, which is a private house of studies. As you can see, she is a young teacher, and she was willing to participate and to be present somehow today, for which I'm really thankful, right? So let's see what Soledad has to say, and then we can compare and contrast their experiences, right? Tell me if you can hear her well.
Hello, everybody. I hope everyone's doing fine. My name is Soledad. I'm a teacher at the Profesorado de Inglés, Estela Guinle de Cervera. I've been a teacher for some years now, and I've been invited to share my experience on what it's been like to teach during COVID times. So I'll just share some ideas. At the beginning of the school year, when everything started, we were faced with an important challenge. And depending on the different institutions where you worked, well, instructions were different. At the Institute, we received a lot of help and guidance, and we were reassured because we were told that we could choose and try different platforms and see what worked best. I found this incredibly helpful because different subjects work better with different tools and platforms. So I teach 3 subjects and I don't use the same platform in all of them. And so at the beginning that was a bit overwhelming because I'm not very technological myself. So I had to watch a lot of tutorials and I had to ask colleagues for their opinion and for their help in the use of many of these platforms and tools. Many of my students helped me and taught a lot of things to me. And I also had relatives trying out the things that I created, or the exams, or the forms, Google Forms, different experiments that I had relatives test out before I took them to the actual classroom. So there was a lot of preparation there. I've never been very technological, so I've never felt really like a fish in the water with technology. But now, after many months of teaching online and virtual lessons, I've found it. I've found my space, let's say. So I am feeling a bit more comfortable. It's not ideal. I still find many difficulties, especially with things that I can't control, like connection problems or students that can't access some material. But I think it's a process that you get more comfortable as you are working with it. As regards content, I had to adapt a lot. Most of the material that I had was in paper, so I had to try and find material online, share with other teachers, or try to reduce some of the content. Or in some subjects where I couldn't cut down on content, what I did was to try and work differently instead of, well, using the students' help so that they could read at home and then they could share what they had read in class, so we could work with feedback. It was difficult at the beginning. Once that I could have access to the material in its digital format, then it was easier. As regards exams, it's been difficult to figure out how to evaluate for the different subjects, whether to give them a written exam, have them do it on camera, on a call, or whether to give them simply an oral exam, but then what do we do with practice? So it depended a lot on the subject. Generally, we could have exams, students could adjust. We did them on Zoom or Google Meet, and they worked quite well. There were problems with the sound, with the internet, etc., but it was possible. As regards whether I think learning has taken place in spite of all of this, I want to believe that it has. Because we've all made a great effort, teachers and students, administrative principals, head teachers at schools, everybody's made a great effort. And if I look back and I think about all the progress that we've made, I think yes, the learning has taken place in a different way. Not worse, not better than it would have been in normal circumstances. It was just different. So the experience, if I had to evaluate it, it is, and it has been exhausting. I've spoken with many teachers, and most of them find that they are working twice as much as before or more. Having students in your phone all the time can be too demanding, so finding time for your own life has been very, very difficult. On the whole, it's you are the one that has to find a way to connect. So that's up to you. If I could change anything of what I did, well, I had to learn many things on the way. So if I could change something, I would try to become better at the use of technology first, so that I can be better at it when I teach my students, so that I can help them in a better way. So, well, that's more or less my experience. I hope you can find it useful, and thank you very much.
Okay, so these were the teachers talking about their experience. If I make a summary of what they both said, I see it seems that they have this feeling or this perception that the experience on the whole was positive, or has been positive so far. They spoke about the challenge they met, and this, I think this ability that we English teachers or teachers of English have of meeting challenges and, you know, never giving up. It's like, okay, I have a challenge and I will learn and I will go for it and I will manage somehow. It seems that we have all become much more or more resourceful, right? They, of course, mentioned hard work. They have all, or you people have been working very hard this year, and the students as well, because obviously this also demanded a lot from the students, and we are going to listen to what they have to say. In any case, I think that both these teachers mentioned that learning took place, not only the learning on the students' part, but their own learning. Teachers learned a lot in these hard times we had to go through, right? So the learning took place somehow. Both of them mentioned the fact that in a different way, but learning was present and there. So let's listen to the students, and with that we are finishing. I think I'm still on time, Alicia, right? You're not kicking me off. Okay, great. So I sent some questions to students as a guide again, for them to more or less know what I expected them to say or tell us, yes, their feelings as regards online lessons at the beginning of the year, whether they had connectivity, resources to do so, where did they get information as regards this new way of learning, these remote lessons. Did they feel comfortable working online all the time? And what about their classmates? Because I have heard of students, especially from Brown, which is the public institution here, who did not have access to education this year, because they did not have connectivity, because they did not have a computer or a cell phone, and so they were left out of the game. And I think of them, and I'm worried about that population because they did not have the chance this year. And what will happen to them next year? Will they be able to make it up or not? But those are open questions, I guess. I asked students if this remote learning forced them to work better or to work differently. What kind of adjustments did they have to make? How would they evaluate the experience, as positive or negative? And what about next year? Are they hoping to have face-to-face lessons again, or do they feel comfortable with remote learning? And any other comments they felt like making. So here you have Maria Sol Alderete, and she will tell you her feelings, her views as regards her learning experience this year. There we go.
Hello, I'm Maria Sol, and I'm studying at Instituto Cervera. So I would like to share with you some of my experiences during this atypical year. So to begin with, I attended a few subjects from the third course and some others from the fourth course. So at the beginning, I found it really difficult to attend online lessons as well as doing term exams and practical works in front of my laptop. Sometimes I felt lonely, sometimes I felt really exhausted, but then little by little I got used to it. I still prefer our traditional learning environment. So another thing I would like to share with you is something related to teaching practices. So for both teaching workshops from the fourth course, for primary and secondary school, we were required to design a teaching practice portfolio, and we designed a thread of lesson plans as well as classroom activities. So then the teacher in charge of the group decided which activities were suitable for the group, taking into consideration their age, their interest, and their level of proficiency as well. So this teaching portfolio was really useful, but although we have been working really hard, I feel that there is something missing. This is because we didn't have the possibility to deliver lessons or to design tests for students. So there are certain strategies, certain techniques that I need to develop in order to know how to manage a real classroom. So that is the reason why I always look for forward information on the internet, books on different teaching resources, and also I try to join in different webinars, so I have plenty of information. These strategies and these techniques, I'm sure that I will develop them in the future in a real classroom, but I feel sad that we couldn't do it this year, having the teacher's help, the teacher comments, or the teacher there watching our performances and correcting our mistakes. So, well, I believe that we are lifelong learners, so we are going to look for forward information about this traditional learning environment, which is constantly changing and also is full of challenges for us future teachers as well as teachers. So, well, thank you very much. Let's hope we can see each other again.
Okay, so thank you, Sol. Let's listen to the next and last student, Patricio, and then let's comment on their feelings, right? So
well, hello. First of all, I would like to thank Amanda and all of you for giving us this opportunity. It's really nice that the students are taking into account in this kind of events. Well, my name is Patricio Daulón. I am a third-year student at Cervera Institute in Santa Fe, which is a private house of studies. Well, the first question says, how did you feel at the beginning of the school year when you got to know that you had online lessons? At first, I thought, well, it could have been worse, but when I realized that I would have to be every single day and every single class in front of the computer, I felt really stressed. Were you ready at the time to work full-time with a computer? Did you have good connectivity, resources to do so? In my case, I didn't have problems. I have my own computer and a good internet connection, but I know that many of my classmates can't say the same. And teachers have always taken these factors into consideration, so that's a good thing to take into account. Well, as regards the information, how much information did you receive? As regards the new way of learning, who did you receive this information from? The school authorities, the teachers, the media. As regards information, there was a classroom in which the headmaster of the institute uploaded everything that the ministry sent, the protocols, how the classes were going to be done, and also there is an email where we can send any question or doubts that we have. Did you feel comfortable working online all the time? Do you feel better now? What about your last year classmates? Are they all working online? Did they encounter difficulties? Well, I felt quite comfortable except for the days when, for instance, we started with the meetings, the video calls, at 4 p.m. and finished at 9:30. I understand that subjects like phonology or language are long and we need to spend more time. But in those days, I felt like really mentally tired. And as regards my last year classmates, I think that they felt the same and maybe a little worse, since it's their last year. Well, it's a pity that they have to go through their final year in this way. But my mom always says, I'm sorry for using Spanish, lo que acontece conviene. We may not be able to understand it at this time, maybe right now, but I think that in the future we will. Would you say you had to adjust little by little with this new learning experience, or were you able to work comfortably from the very beginning? Did it force you to work better, differently? Well, I worked comfortably from the beginning. As I said before, I didn't have problems, and I think that it forced all of us to work differently, since we have to work with things that we weren't used to, like Classroom, Meet, Zoom, the way in which we uploaded things to Classroom, and this goes for both for teachers and for students. Do you feel this experience has been positive, negative on the whole? Well, I think that on the whole it has been a positive experience. It would have been worse not having classes, and both teachers and students managed to do their best and adapt. What about going back to face-to-face lesson next year? Are you waiting for it or not really? Well, I really want this pandemic situation to end so that we can start next year in the classroom and enjoy it, which is the most important thing for me.
Okay, I guess it gets up to there. Thank you to my students. Sol is here with us. Thank you, Sol, for your collaboration. I think that this idea of always listening to students for me is important, right? And they both mentioned these feelings of anxiety, this sadness for not being able to have face-to-face meetings, and Sol mentioning or expressing this idea of I will learn how to teach face-to-face in the future, sooner or later, which means that she's expecting to go back to the classroom. She's really waiting for face-to-face lessons again. And I don't know if that is what the future has for all of us. Will we go back to the classroom, or will we stay with the laptops in between? I don't know. I don't see it very clearly, at least not here in Santa Fe, especially with public institutions. The place where I used to work, Almirante Brown, was not clean before the pandemic, much the less now. There were not enough janitors even, you know, I mean, the basic things are not available, were not available, and I don't think they will be available in the year 2021. So my guess is that this distance learning will go on for a time. Both teachers mentioned that they managed to adapt the content, which is something I asked on purpose because I thought, well, if they are not meeting every day as in the past, let's say, what about all the content that students were supposed to receive? What will be the impact in the future of that reduction in content is one of my question marks, right? But maybe this is very personal. I don't know if you people feel the same. If you want to say something, if you want to tell us about your own experience there in Resistencia, has it been different from what the teachers and the students have mentioned?
Well, in fact, a whole a whole workshop on that is scheduled for tomorrow, where students from 4th and 5th year, together with their trainers, are going to show and share their experience. Yes, but I would say that we are like living or going through the same things or experiencing same way. We try to do our best. We have little help in general from Ministry of Education. But as you said before, Amanda, I think that we, teachers of English and students at teacher training, are always looking on the bright side and always welcoming challenges. That's, I think it's a characteristic in all of us. So we try just to remain positive and do our best, because there is no other way, I think. That's what I've seen by listening to my colleagues and by talking with, whenever I could, yes, with students. I don't know what the rest feels, if they want, I don't know, if they would like to share something.
Feel free to say something if you want.
Okay. Yes, hello everybody. Okay, hello Amanda.
Yeah.
Roxana Melgarejo is here. I felt identified with the second teacher, the second professor, when she said that she had to share the material with her family. Well, in fact, I started delivering lessons, via Zoom with my mother, my sister, and some relatives from Pinedo. So imagine, that was the beginning. Okay, I had to try with my family too. Regarding working with different platforms, the same. I had to try all of them. Okay, adapting material. The most difficult part was to adapt the exams. Okay, how to take exams via the different platforms. That was very difficult. And finally, reducing the annual plan, the contents. Okay, there you have my director of studies. She rejected my annual plan 3 times. So imagine how difficult it is to do it. I mean, to select what should be, I don't know, taught, okay? What should be delivered. I mean, how to choose the right material, the right content, okay? So yes, it was quite a challenge this year.
Yes, yes, Roxana. It makes me laugh because this idea of reducing or leaving aside some material from your syllabus is very hard for us, because whatever is in your syllabus is important. That's why it's there. That's why you have it in your syllabus. Everything that is there is worth teaching, and so having to make a decision on that is hard for teachers, because you feel that the students will miss important things, and then they will be on their own to make up for whatever they did not receive. In any case, something I always told my students was, remember that the teacher training college offers you tools, some tools. We cannot solve your professional lives in the future. We are just offering you some tools which will allow you to build up your own path, right? So that is a never-ending task that we all have. We have to keep on learning. We have to keep on getting things that were not given to us at a certain moment. We become responsible for this ongoing learning process, yes? And I don't want, well, I don't know, if anyone else has something else to say, feel free to do so. And if not, I would like to make some final comments to round up my presentation, because I want to be English-like and respect the timing, believe it or not. Okay, I don't know, anybody else would like to share any ideas, any feelings? If you allow me, and I swear I will stop talking. I think that one important aspect of this whole problem we all faced this year has been the fact that we have all learned to collaborate, to really count on the person next to us, to be together, to try to solve and try to do our best, because we cannot do things on our own. We are social beings and we need each other. And personally, that is the part that I feel it's a pity that it has been lost. It's true that technology has allowed us to do wonderful things this year, but the direct contact with students in a classroom is something that is hard to replace, right? Because being in contact with the student every day helps build up human relationships. Yes, the relationship that you have with your students is very hard to keep through a screen. I'm tutoring groups of students, and it's not the same. I feel uncomfortable sometimes, because I feel I'm not in my place, and my place for teaching is the classroom, not my bedroom, and not through a screen. I need to see the students in front of me. I need to be able to get close to them. I need to see what they are writing. I need to touch them even, because we touch each other. We are Argentinians, right? And with a computer, you cannot do that. That interaction that is typical of a classroom is not present online, right? And that's the negative side of all this experience. The rest is wonderful. It has been wonderful. I think that many things have been done, and I think that teachers and students have done a tremendous work. But this close contact has been lost, and I feel kind of uncomfortable about that. But well, that's my view of the whole thing, right? So in any case, what I wanted to tell you is something to finish off. I think I believe that teaching has been a very rich life experience for me. I have learned a lot, mostly from students, and consequently, I have become a better person. Teaching has made me a better person. I have become a good listener. I am able to be more understanding and more patient with people in general. And this is very much connected to the title of my talk. You know, I usually try to walk around in someone else's shoes before judging someone wrongly. You know, it's like a good practice that came out of teaching. Yes, and it has also, mind you, helped me to become a better mother. Yes, because I apply many of the things that I do in the classroom with my own kids, because once a teacher, always a teacher, right? And I cannot help doing that. So I also believe that education is extremely important. I'm worried about the fact that here in Argentina, the national educational policy is non-existent. And for me, education is one of the strongest pillars of a society. And I think that that's why we are in the mess we are. I value education. I have always defended education with all my heart. And that's why I'm so concerned about what went on this year. And I'm worried about the students that were lost and that did not have access, because that means that in the future, we will have more problems, yes? We need more people that are educated. And well, I would like that to happen here in Argentina. Remember always that learning is fun, people, and consequently teaching is fun. So have fun while teaching, and try to make your students have fun as well, because it's a beautiful experience. The other thing I would like to say is be always on the students' side of the fence. Defend them, protect them, because they are learning, and they will be probably the teachers of your kids or the teachers of your grandchildren. So you'd better do a good job with them, because then your own family will either profit from them or suffer them in the classrooms, right? So your job with them is extremely important in that sense too. And well, never forget that teaching is passion. Yes, if you don't feel passion for what you're doing, you'd better put up a kiosk and don't harm anyone. That's my piece of advice to everyone. Okay, and thank you so much for having invited me. I really enjoyed being part of this. I hope some of the ideas were useful, and I liked it. I liked being here. I like talking. I always like talking, so this has been piece of cake for me. And thank you for your attention. Sorry I didn't make you move. You didn't dance with me, but you have Chabela, Silvia, and Tere that do it very nicely. And next time I will manage to prepare something in that respect, okay? Thank you very much. Thank you, Alicia. Congratulations for taking the trouble to offer this to people, because this is December. You must be tired, exhausted, and yet you have energy to offer. So thank you. Thank you very, very much. Thank you, people.
No, thank you, Amanda. Yes, it's been a pleasure. I think we've all enjoyed it as much as you did. Yes. So thanks for accepting the invitation immediately. And thank you, everybody, for joining this session. So see you all. And please, if you want to have a 10-minute break, and then we join another very, very important session, another very important talk delivered by Monica Barrio Nuevo, who is with us here. She will be talking about some of the things Amanda said in the last part of her talk that has to do with our duties and responsibilities and rights as teachers. Yes, Estatuto del Docente, which are very much at risk, let's say, these days. So it will be a very, very, very important and useful talk as well. But anyway, thank you, Amanda, once again, and see you all. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.